how to come up with a brand name. Hey, how's it going? My name's Michael, and I talk about branding. Creating a captivating brand is extremely important when you start a business. Because to create a brand, you got to know all kinds of very specific data points, like who your customer is, what exactly your customer wants, and how they want it. So if you're here, that probably means you already know all that stuff, and now you want to name your company. It's going to set the tone for your entire business. It's going to encompass your identity, and it's going to be the first impression that people have when they literally hear your name. So when you're trying to come up with a compelling name, it should be really like kind of a concise summary of your company's values, your services, and whatever your unique selling proposition is. People talk about Google as a way to say, instead of saying search for something, Google something. Yeah, cool, whatever. But did you know that the name isn't just a silly word that they chose randomly and then just got lucky and got successful? Google actually is a real word, and it actually comes from the word gogol, Googol, which is a term for the number 1 with 100 zeros behind it. Gogol. And so the name is supposed to suggest vastness and infinity and bigness, which is supposed to mirror the search engine's goal, which is to essentially organize the world's information. So you can see the power of a well-chosen name is immense. Did Gogol have a role in Google's success? Did the brand name help it get there? So let's get into brainstorming your brand name. You're going to want to start brainstorming words, phrases, and concepts relevant to your brand's core values that you should have already defined. And if you need help defining them, you can watch my last video, How to Build a Brand. Start by brainstorming words, concepts, and phrases relevant to your business's core values, target audience, and industry. For example, when Airbnb started, they were actually called AirBed&Breakfast. And they had this weird concept where they were trying to get people to list their homes for sale where they would put air mattresses up in a room, and then when the guests would wake up, they would serve them breakfast. A pretty unique and funny concept, but it grew beyond that. They outgrew that initial name and brand, so they changed their name to just Airbnb, which sounds way more techie and cool, in my opinion. I love that name. I think it's a great name. So now we're going to go into the do's and don'ts of naming your brand. And there's a lot of them, so you might want to write them down. Or you could just copy them out of the description of this video. That's probably easier. You do want to ensure that your name is easy to spell and pronounce. A straightforward name ensures that when people are talking about you in word-to-mouth situations, that you don't get lost in just weird fuzziness of a weird name. Remember, not everyone is getting a link to share. Some people are literally typing in your name in Google and trying to find it. So if your name is spelt super weird, you're not going to come up and you're going to lose that person. Do consider the global implications of what you name your brand. Ensure your brand doesn't have any negative implications across other areas in the world. And this is especially sure if you plan to go global. Did you know that when Chevy came out with the Chevy Nova and they released it in Mexico, people were like, why are you calling a car no-go? The Chevy no-go? Huh? You also seriously want to consider SEO. You're going to want to choose a name that's going to help you stand out and rank in the search engines. And a unique name is going to make it a lot easier to compete with other people. If you want to call your company Microphone Solutions, do you know how many people have wrote microphone solutions on the internet? Like, oh my God. You can't compete with the word microphone. Okay. Again, you want to check for cultural sensitivity. You don't want to accidentally offend any racial groups, any political groups, or any religious groups. You do want to go for flexibility. Pick a name that allows your brand to expand into other products, industries, and verticals. I've always loved how Adobe has had a nice nest of products under its wings, and Adobe can really be anything. When you choose a name or you get a short list, say the names out loud. Say the names out loud to each other. Say the names out loud to your family, to your friends, to your kids, to your neighbors. Does it sound weird? Is it hard to say? Is it a tongue twister? Please God, don't make it a tongue twister. Absolutely consider your target audience. Oh my God. If you don't know who your target audience is, you should not be naming your company. Stop it right now. Your brand name should resonate with your target audience. They should love it. It should reflect their tastes, their preferences, and the overall vibe that they're going for. Those are the do's. So here's some don'ts. Don't choose a name that's too generic or too descriptive. Generic names like best cleaning service really lack distinctiveness. You're going to come up with terrible SEO, and it's going to be extremely challenged to trademark if you grow beyond your wildest dreams. Don't go for super fads and super trends. Trendy names are not going to age well. So make sure the name you choose has a bit of a timeless quality to it. There's a balance there that you want to strike. Just don't go too trendy. Don't overcomplicate it. There's nothing worse than me getting a design project from a company whose name has like 45 characters and you're trying to do a business card or something. It doesn't even fit. Don't do that. Also, if it's too complex or lengthy, customers are going to forget it. They're not going to type it in correctly to Google. It's just a mess. Don't make it super long. You're going to want to make sure you don't infringe on other people's trademarks. Don't get cute with Disney, guys. Make sure your brand isn't too similar to another trademark. Could someone buy your product because they think it might be this other brand over here? If you do that, you're going to go to jail. Do not ignore domain name availability. If you go to namecheap.com and that domain is not available at all, you're going to have to come up with something else. Unfortunately, you can't just name your brand whatever you want. It has to actually exist for you to take over. And don't forget about all those social profiles. If you thought the domain was hard to get, wait until you see the social profiles. You want all your social profiles to basically be the same across all platforms. And if you can't make that happen, not only does it look unprofessional, but it's really confusing to your audience and to your customers. If you have a name that doesn't feel right, do not settle on it. Figure it out. It's very important and it's very hard to change later on. And oh my God, do not ignore feedback from people. If someone's going to put in enough effort to actually give you feedback on something, listen to them. Put your ego away, sit down, and listen to them. What else? So I would say choosing a brand name is a bit of a mix of art and science. You can't just be frivolous and creative and do whatever you want. You do have constraints that you have to think about. And you can't just only think about constraints. You do have to have some creativity in there. It's a healthy balance. So hopefully with these guidelines, it makes you a little easier to do this yourself. If you'd like help with this with your company, shoot me a DM. So what kind of company are you naming? Let me know in the comments. Do you need help? Let us know what kind of company that you're naming in the comments, and I'll just try to help think of something silly without any data as a reply. Is that useful? Not really. This has been how to build. No, this has been how to name a brand. Go watch my last video on how to build a brand.